Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Dr. Diallo, for organizing this. And thank you, President Watt, for your bold leadership in hosting today's event, as well as hosting a historic FESMN World Festival of Black Arts and Cultures last December. My name is Logan Kohls. I'm pleased to be here. I'm a filmmaker, television producer, and educator. And I had the distinct honor last December of joining the U.S. delegation and documenting their historic journey to FESMN. The U.S. delegation's journey to the festival really demonstrated to me clearly the fierce urgency of now in creating a dialogue and a connection in connecting the voices of the diaspora with those of the African continent. The festival was a platform for the cultural rebirth of voices and images. Now, we're all well aware of the hundreds of years of negative imagery that's been put forth that has sought to breed self-hate and discord and disunity amongst our children and amongst the children of Africa and the diaspora. So let us use this renaissance, this rebirth, to continue to counter-program this imagery. In this digital age where some people get more of the information from Facebook status updates than the New York Times, myself included sometimes, it's sad to say, we have the unprecedented opportunity to connect digitally and share these stories and voices and imagery of the continent and of diaspora. So I'll leave you with this quote and this question. A childhood friend of mine emailed me this morning this quote, and it's really relevant to what we're talking about today. The quote reads, "We become what we think of ourselves. What determines one's being is the image one adopts." So the question is this: to each of us, how do we empower our youth of Africa and of the diaspora to continuously imagine themselves as brilliant, beautiful, and talented? And how do we encourage and enable them to share these stories with the world? I intend to do my part as a griot, a storyteller spreading the story of the African Renaissance. And President Watt, however I can help do that, please, by all means, let me know. And so with that said, I'd like to share a short documentary from the U.S. delegation's trip to FESMN. Thank you.
The will of the African people is the will of the entire universe. Everybody borrow a piece of Africa.
After 33 years, the third edition of the World Festival of Black Arts and Cultures convened in Dakar, Senegal, in order to be an embodiment of African Renaissance. This festival was unique in that it was the first time that a true effort was made to unite in one city, in one country, descendants of Africa, wherever they are. The delegation that went from the United States was one of the largest delegations to visit Africa at any one point. Over 200 high-level delegates, elected officials, artists, filmmakers, outstanding individuals known for their work in Africa and the diaspora. Representatives of the National Conference of Black Mayors, National Black Conference of State Legislators, presidents of historically black colleges. We also have members of the National Association of Black Journalists and the NBA. All of those, over 200 of them, responded to the invitation of President Abdoulaye Wade of Senegal to take part in this historic event.
can see this corridor with the door leading to the bottom. It is the door of the voyage without return. For the slave it seems, bye-bye, Africa.
The American delegation took time off the festival and visited the historic island of Gorée. Gorée Island, it was the island where millions of Africans were shipped through the door of no return to America, to the Caribbean, and to Latin America. It was a very, very emotional time to visit. I'm going.
It's an overwhelming feeling of sadness and just placing myself as a human being in the place of the human beings that were here. Maybe my ancestors were here, and then also they got enslaved here. Just crying for my ancestors.
This island became more important because of the position of the island. This island is closest to the American coast. This cell in the front is a typical cell. Inside, they put 15 to 20 men. The second cell is located on the corner on the very left. And it wasn't a cell reserved for children, but for children from 6 years old until 70. And children usually lay on the floor, like fishes on sunny boxes.
I think about my children when I see these rooms for children. When I see the rooms for men, I think about my brothers and my family and how that must have been for these people, these Africans who must have been terrified.
What is important for the guards was not to know exactly how many captives. The thing is just how to shut the door. Also, one can see this corridor with the door leading to the bottom. It is the door of the voyage without return. Because when a snap step out from the door, all the slave it seems, bye-bye, Africa.
Too often we hear, if it wasn't for the African, we wouldn't be enslaved. But the Africans are the ones who are responsible.
It was conceived by the Europeans. The popes blessed, they decreed that the Africans can be enslaved as infidels, captives, African captives. And so in order to get the captives, you had to induce Africans to have wars. So when they got to the coast of Africa, one group, like the Dutch, gave the Ashanti some weapons. Another group gave the Faki some weapons.
Gentlemen, that's the work of Logan Kohls. One of the gentlemen you just saw in that video, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. He proved that door of no return, he returned and he tells the story his way, not the way they want him to tell it, not the way the professors told him to tell it, but he tells it the way he wants to tell it. And for that, we salute him. Please welcome Professor Leonard Jeffries.
Good afternoon, family.
Good afternoon.
President Abdul Awad and our First Lady, distinguished leaders of the African world, on the continent, and in these United States. It is indeed a pleasure for me to have these few moments with you at this historical occasion. We have to realize how important our being here is. It is a chance for us to celebrate. It is a chance for us to remember, but it's more importantly a chance for us to rededicate to that struggle that brought us this far. As Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. And we have to remember that struggle is foremost. We have to be thankful that we have arrived at this point of our history, that we could bring such power and force together in one particular place, in Harlem, to make a statement to the world. Why is it important to come to Harlem, USA, to present this historic forum, to make this bold statement to the world? Why is it so meaningful to look at the future of the global African community and have that future look hosted in such a monumental institution such as the Schomburg? It is important because our time has come. Our time has come. Many of our great leaders understood that, and they gave messages to us. One of them was El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, and it is on this street, Malcolm X Boulevard, that he has been acknowledged. And he said to us, it is about struggle and victory by any means necessary. Malcolm X. On the Nate's Great Boulevard in Harlem is the old 7th Avenue, which is now Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. And our great brother Adam, whose church is right around the corner in this sacred ground Harlem, and right near it is Mother Zion. And Adam said to all African peoples for eternity, what is in your hand? What is in your hand, black man, black woman, black child? What is in your hand? What's in your hand is power. What's in your hand is victory. What's in your hand is struggle. And so Adam Clayton Powell speaks to us as we drive down his boulevard every day. And in this great community, one more street over, you have Frederick Douglass Boulevard. And Frederick Douglass spoke loud and clear as he opposed enslavement. And he said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom yet deprecate agitation are men who want the crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain without the thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, it may be a physical one, but it must be a struggle. Power conceives nothing without a demand. It never did, it never will. What time is it? It's our time. And we have to give a special thanks to the government of Senegal, led by our great leader, and the First Lady, and the other leaders of Senegal, for taking the lead, upholding the vision that Kwame Nkrumah got as he walked through the streets of Harlem and saw the Marcus Garvey movement and the other movements. And that vision for Kwame Nkrumah became what became the African Liberation and Independence movement. And we've had our ups and downs in terms of the independence struggle. But a president of Senegal has said, I am going to contribute to that forward march of African peoples, the vision conceived in 1945, the vision that was sustained throughout liberation struggles, the vision that became part of the new African nations. I'm going to carry that vision, and we have to acknowledge President Abdoulaye Wade for what he's done. And the vision that he talks about, he put in print a message to the youth of Africa. Became a monumental book written in French, which has now been translated into English. The book is entitled A Destiny for Africa, and that destiny for Africa is greatness, not enslavement, not colonialism, not neocolonialism, not destitute, not poverty, not civil war. The destiny of Africa is greatness, and he outlines it in the pages of this great book. But there's been opposition, because many people don't understand that President Abdoulaye Wade has passed a nation state, Senegal, which is his primary responsibility. He sees the African world. And he's brought around some other African leaders who see the African world, the leaders of Nigeria, the leaders of Sierra Leone, the leaders of Liberia. He has traveled throughout Africa. He's gone to Ghana to uphold the Nkrumah tradition last year, and he was with our leader, Ambassador Dudley Thompson, in Ghana, acknowledging the greatness of Kwame Nkrumah's legacy, which he feels he was a continuation of. But at great cost, cost and expense to do the things that our great leaders are doing. They have to rally other peoples. They have to travel. At the same time, take care of the immediate things of their country, the poverty, the lack of development. But we have to, because it's our time, come up with a formula in the proper planning where we can take care of our villages, take care of our towns, take care of our cities, but take care of the global African responsibility to rise with power to take our place in the world. And again, we have to thank the President of Senegal and those around him, certainly Professor Ibadan Cham. My wife and I described him, Dr. Rousing Jeffries, as the Imhotep of our times. He chaired the forum for 10 days with the grace and dignity, the intelligence, so African minds came together so they could focus on a meaningful future of Africa. The model has been given to you, African peoples, on what you need to do. We did it at the Senegal Festival. The festival that you saw, you just got a little tidbit of the feeling of being there with thousands of African peoples producing something that I only thought the Chinese could produce, that they produced on the Olympics. Africans produced it in Senegal. With help from Brazil and Nigeria and other places. We have arrived. It is our time. But we have to have the plan. We have to have the potentialities linked together. So we are linking the mayors of 650 cities in America. This is unprecedented. Mayors who have to deal with making sure that business is taken care of. Mayors in America are linking with the mayors in Senegal, but that's just the beginning. It's the model. Senegal becomes the prototype of the linkages that has to take place. And the higher education institutions linking together so that the Schomburg Center can become a think tank for the African world. So I leave you, brothers and sisters, with these words from our brother from the West Coast, Dr. Wade Knowles. He wrote an article on the World Festival, and it's entitled Black Psychology in the African Renaissance, a report from the African World Festival of Arts. And this message is from our brother from the West Coast, so I don't want you to think everything is happening here in New York. Dr. Wade Knowles and his wife, Dr. Vera, attended that festival. I'm going to end my comments with this. At the invitation of President Abdoulaye Wade, the Republic of Senegal, we attended the World Festival of Arts, the largest global gathering of black artists, writers, journalists, filmmakers, intellectuals, scientists, civil rights leaders, elected officials, and youth leaders, including a delegation of prominent African-American personalities in Dakar, Senegal, on December 2010. His Excellency, President Abdoulaye Wade, opened the festival with a vision of the African Renaissance, which included, as our great brother Dr. Jamil Diallo has stated, a United States of Africa 2017. That means we all have work to do, not just our leaders, but we all have work to do to make sure that that vision is real, and that the diaspora be recognized as the sixth region of the African Union, and that Africans from the diaspora have unfettered access to every African nation as they wish to contribute to the global African community. The opening ceremony rivaled the best that China could present. A special reception was held for the delegates that came with the support of his family in Senegal, the leaders of Senegal, has presented to the African world a symbol of our future. It's not a symbol of a war memorial. It's not a symbol of a great man. It's not a symbol of a movement. It's a symbol of our global people. It's a symbol that's taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's a symbol that's taller than Jesus the Redeemer in Rio. It's a symbol that represents our future. The African man rising, holding on to his rock, the African woman, and holding up his child. And the child is pointing to the future, calling for African peoples to do everything in their power to unite so we take our place on the human stage at this historical time. Thank you very much.